My name is Shelly Maxwell, and I'm a clinical social worker with the Ascension, Wisconsin EAP. And I'm joined by Jen, my colleague, and she's going to be manning the chat. And we're going to start recording the session as well so that we can load that up onto our YouTube channel. Sometimes it takes us up to a week, so it'll for sure be up next week. Sometimes we're even able to get it uploaded to YouTube by the end of the week. So if you have missed any previous sessions or want to use it during the month on your own time, feel free to go to that EAP. It's Ascension, Wisconsin EAP on YouTube, and you can access all the previous R&R sessions that we've recorded, as well as we have all our other trainings. It's an amazing inventory or library of content. So you are welcome to access that at any time. So Jen, are we recording?
Yes, we are.
Okay, great. All right. So with that, let's go ahead and start. So for today's R&R session, Jen and I were just talking about some of the transitions that happen in family life and even in the seasons. And I've been thinking a lot about sunsets and sunrises. My son just graduated from high school this past Friday, and we have lots of other transitions happening in our family life and social life. And then with summer vacations coming up, it's generally, and in the summer, we're very aware of the sunsets. We're outside a lot more. We're near water typically. So I invite you to sink into your chair a little bit, really relax and release into your seat and take in the imagery of this sunset. And maybe even close your eyes and think about sunsets that have been really meaningful to you in the past. And something that always intrigues me about sunsets is you watch it, and then right as it gets towards the horizon, how quickly it sets. And a lot of times these endings feel the same way, where you anticipate it, and then in a blink of an eye, it's set. So it's done, the ceremony is over, or the moving van has pulled away and driven off. And you're like, okay, that's it. And with the sunset, it's followed by night. We don't go right into the new day, the sunrise. In fact, nighttime is a real, if you will, gray area. When does the sunset turn into the sunrise? When does that ending become the new beginning? And in some ways, our breath is the same way. When does the exhale actually shift into that inhale? So you'll notice, or maybe you haven't noticed yet, but I've said endings and beginnings, where usually we say beginnings and endings, but I really like it to focus on it's the ending and then the beginning. And also with breath, a lot of times we focus on breathing in rather than breathing out. And a lot of times when we're under stress or under duress, it's actually more like mechanically easier to exhale first, to let go, and then inhale so you can receive. When your hands are full and then you're trying to bring more into your life, you can't juggle it all. Our lungs too, if we're holding a lot of tension in our body and we're trying to breathe in, it's too much. And so how do we release in order to invite in? If that makes sense. So when we thinking a little bit deeper about this, thinking about how rivers, like our lives, are not straight lines. And typically when we're going through changes, we're reflecting quite a bit. And at times there can be regrets. Endings can also bring a lot of resistance. And when you go through endings, I maybe take a moment here to reflect on what's your typical grieving style, right? Is there a lot of resistance? Are you like gung-ho for the change? But how do we start to acknowledge and normalize that our paths are not going to be straight? And how do we navigate these curves and bends in our life, whether we've chosen them or not, with more fluidity? So there are banks to the sides of the river, and I always think of the banks of the river as being my healthy boundaries, right? I'm not going to let the water spill, so I'm going to keep it somewhat contained, but I'm also going to let it flow and imagine myself as part of that water moving with the flow. So take a moment here to center yourself, feel your feet rooted on the floor, and think about the banks of your river, if you will, your voice, your intuition, those things that signal to you your needs and how to request those needs, or maybe even be assertive with those needs, those boundaries, and how that gives a sense of security so that you know whatever situation comes your way, whichever way your river bends, you're going to be able to navigate it. Your intuition, your voice, those ways that you know your body signaling what you need, you're going to listen to it. And that's going to help you to navigate. So we don't have to overly control. We don't need to build up these dams to stop the water or redirect. You know, how do we move more fluidly? And now with our feet fully supported by the floor, our sits bones being rooted into your seat, your back being supported by the back of your chair, start to bring your shoulders down and bring in that sense of fluidity into your space right now, into your consciousness. And bring awareness to the fluidity of your breath. Observe your breath and notice whether you are using reverse breathing or diaphragmatic breathing. So the way we want to breathe at all times, especially in our R&R sessions, but at all times, is diaphragmatic breathing, where on the exhale, we bring in the effort to bring the navel center towards the spine. We're squeezing that air out. And then when it's time to inhale, you release the effort and let the belly balloon. And you can breathe in and out through your nostrils. When you breathe in and out through your nostrils, you release nitric oxide, similar to laughing gas, just not as high of a concentration, but it's very soothing and calming to the body to breathe through the nostrils. And as you breathe, I invite you to close your eyes and start to imagine almost like the similarity of a sunset with your exhale, releasing, and then pausing, maybe even hugging your upper abdominals up into your rib cage, signaling a moment to rest and stop, just like the night. And then on the inhale, imagining the sun rising, imagining the newness of the day, the newness of that breath and all that it's bringing into your body. Just like the sunrise, all that day is going to bring into your life. And on the exhale, imagine the sun setting, squeezing that breath out, hugging into the upper abdominals. into the rib cage. And then when you come fully, start to notice, can you tell when you actually move into the in-breath? Is it when you're holding the breath, or is it when you release the effort? Let's do 2 more breaths here. So I love the quote that the only thing constant in life is change. And how do we normalize those changes and recognize those changes in our stages of life, but even in the day, the difference of the morning versus midday versus evening and night, and even the changes that take place in our body within this half hour, right? That things are always shaping and shifting us. Jen sent me this awesome video on YouTube where the gentleman, he responds to every single change as good, even if it's not what the change he wanted. Good, because this is a new opportunity. There's a new solution that's going to come, and it's much more the optimistic versus pessimistic view of change, of welcoming it in rather than wasting energy resisting it. And when I say that, I'm not minimizing grief. Grief is most definitely in that. And we can accept the change and grieve at the same time. So those don't have to be opposite to each other. It can be both and. So let's go ahead and start to move our bodies a little bit more. I'm going to scoot my chair back and come into, let's see here. Jen, can you, let's see. Are you able to see me, or is it?
I can see you.
Okay.
Okay, now I just see you.
I think I figured it out. Okay.
Yeah, you got it.
If I did these every week, I'd be much more fluid with this. Okay. So if you want, you can scoot up a little bit in your chair so that it's the arms of your chair are not in the way. And let's start to mimic the idea of the sunrise and sunset by dropping our head down towards our chest. And then slowly roll the head over to the right shoulder, letting the right ear drop down, releasing the shoulder blades. You might be pulling in through the navel center and rooting through your sits bones, but that's really the only effort we need here. And then we're going to roll the chin forward and then over to the left. And move here with your own breath, where you inhale or exhale coming center, inhale to one shoulder, exhale to center, inhale to the opposite. So we are careful in yoga of the cervical spine. So that's why we typically don't prompt people to bring their head back. But if that's something you're comfortable with doing and enjoy, feel free. But for the most part, we just encourage people to lengthen through the back of their neck rather than crimping it. And then when you've done an equal amount on each side, bring the head back to center, letting the chin rest towards the chest, taking a nice deep breath in. You can lift your chin up, and let's lift our arms. And we're going to reach the arms up, palms pressed together, and then on your exhale, bring them down. Just going to warm up the arms. Inhale, flip the palms up as they reach towards each other, press, and then exhale, palms facing down, floating the arms down. And one more time, inhale up. And then instead of bringing the hands all the way down, we're going to bend at the elbows and come into cactus arms or goddess and squeeze between the shoulder blades. So you're going to bring those elbows back, and we're trying to keep the elbows aligned with the shoulders, but they might drop down. It just depends on where you want that release between the scapula, the shoulder blades. And you could even raise and lift the hands, the elbows, giving a nice massage to that upper back. Let's do one more pulse up. And then when we come back to center, maybe you bring your feet out a little bit wider so that you have a really good base for stabilizing yourself. We're going to take a nice deep breath in, let the belly pooch. On your exhale, use that effort to exhale, bring the navel center to the spine and lean over to the right. So you can keep your arms in goddess arms, or you might lengthen that left arm up and over. It takes a little bit more strength. You're going to really use those core abdominals to stabilize. Breathe. Then release, come back to center. And now we're going to shift over to the left. And you can either keep the arms here and breathe, or reach that right arm up and over and start to feel that space between the ribs. Imagine the breath going between the ribs and opening them ever so gently, creating more space. Breathe here 2 more times. Use that core strength. Use those sits bones to root you. Then coming back to center. Then we're going to twist to the left, bringing the elbow, the right elbow forward. Reach up through the crown of the head. Really lengthen here, and you're twisting from your upper torso, not your hips. Your navel center is even probably facing forward still. And then come back to center and twist over to the right. So the sits bones, the navel center facing forward, we're twisting from the upper torso. You could even look behind that right shoulder. Breathe. And then coming back to center. All right, we're gonna rotate the wrists, shake them out, shake the shoulders, and then plant the left foot onto the floor. Your knee is going to be bent, and you can either use your hands and bring them around your shin or behind the thigh, and you're gonna hug the right knee in. So whatever's available to you, let's just go ahead and squeeze that leg in. Gently set the right foot onto the floor and extend the left leg out, flexing the left foot. So you might have to scooch a little bit farther up your seat so that you have space to hinge. And when you hinge, we're not schlumping the spine, we're hinging from the hips. So you can even bring your pointer fingers in towards the hip flexors and your thumb by your hips and almost help coax it where you're coming forward, really reaching the nose forward. And here's some options for you. You can lean all the way forward and let your torso rest on that straight leg and reach the fingertips out towards your foot. Or you can let the torso rest on your knee or the bent leg instead, whichever makes more sense to you. Or if that compresses your breath too much, use your desk as a prop and bring your wrists onto the desk and fold forward that way. Another option is to scoot closer to your desk and bend the elbows and place the elbows on the desk, and you can rest your clasped hands on the back of the head. And that way you really get into your triceps, and it's a really nice opener for the back. And then slowly start to release from that forward fold, coming up. And we're going to change sides. So planting the right foot onto the floor, lift the left knee in towards you, either clasping around the shin or behind the thigh. Hug in those abdominals. Give them a nice squeeze, bring that knee in. Take a nice deep breath or two. And then bring the left foot down and straighten the right leg with the right foot flexed. And do your forward fold here. So again, you can use your hands as cues around the hips to bring the nose forward and find a comfortable resting spot for you. Once you've gotten into a comfortable, well, I won't say comfortable, but a good forward fold for you, let your head go. Let the neck relax. Drink in the breath. Listen for the breath. Two more breaths here. Breathing out. Resting and breathing in. Slowly start to walk your hands up, coming back up into a seated position. You can keep your eyes gently closed and feel free to do whatever movements feel best to you right now. If you need to do a couple of more shoulder shrugs or clasping your hands behind your back. There's a yoga teacher I follow and she says, be like Goldilocks, experiment. So we all know those tight parts of our bodies. And so taking a moment here to take time to release. If it's a leg, moving that around, maybe circling the ankles. You just saw me, I have incredibly tight forearms. And so doing these stretches for me is very, very helpful. Then hopefully, as you use the RNR sessions, you get better acquainted with your body and those stretches that we do that really benefit your tight areas and to bring attention to those areas and not just pay attention to them here, but bring in those stretches and those movements into your days between our sessions. Okay, so we're gonna come back. Okay. So I thought for today, I share the quote that my son's principal shared at the end of their graduation ceremony. And the quote is from Patti LaBelle. And she wrote, every exit is an entrance to someplace else. And so sitting here, absorbing these words, feeling the rootedness of your feet, knowing that you get to steer where you go as you follow the path that is given to you, is placed out in front of you, and recognizing that every exit is an entrance to someplace else. And one time I was in a yoga class and the instructor said something that has helped me a great deal when I'm transitioning between changes. And she said, if you're anticipating that change, imagine that it's already here. Whatever it is that you're dreading, whatever it is that you're worried about and anticipating, imagine that already going through it, because you're already thinking about it. You're already mentally wrapping your head around it. And so knowing that it's already upon us. So when I think about my son leaving for college, right? And well, that's not till late August. Well, no, it's already here. We're already doing things every day to prepare him. That change is already here. And I don't know what our September R&R session is going to look like, because I will have just dropped him off. So that will be interesting. But you know, taking time to grieve, taking time to celebrate, taking time to bring conscious awareness and honor these shifts in our lives, whether they're really big ones or really small ones. So with that, I encourage you all to continue to use your day to reflect on the sunsets, the sunrises in your life, and to think about how to be fluid with them and how to breathe through them. And I will say, I am leading through UW Oshkosh a retreat for a day in October, the first Saturday of October, where we're going to talk more about the roles we have and how we grieve and shift through those roles. It's a women's wellness retreat. And I do have a public Facebook page called Intentions LLC, and you're welcome to join that group. So you get, I mostly post inspirational quotes and resources that I share a lot with clients. And there will be updates about that UWO Women's Wellness Retreat in October. But also, if you're just wanting resources and wanting to, you know, just have a source of inspiration in your day, feel free to like that. But as always, your EAP, we are certainly here for you for any of your needs, and you can reach us by phone, by email. We have a fantastic website as well, but our YouTube page is a wealth of information. So I thank you all for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you next month for the July session. It's always the first Wednesday. We've had some hiccups with our promotions, so I'm grateful for those of you who are able to join today. The Zoom link is always the same. The password's always the same. So if you put that into your calendar, and that will never shift, or if it does, we'll email you. But so I'm so glad you all were able to come out today and take this time for yourself. All right, well, we'll see you next time.